Hello everybody, thank you for joining Post Surf Blog today for another episode of Epic Surf News. And today I'm here with none other than Landen Young from Hack Surfboards. How's it going?
It's going alright, how about you?
Awesome, man. I'm stoked. I've never been to the shop before, so I came in today and Landon opened up for me. We're going to take a little tour after we talk a little bit about surfing. And you'll be surprised. I was surprised at all the different things that Hack Surfboards can do and is doing. So I'm learning a lot. Hopefully you learn a lot as well. So let's start with the basics, Landon. How long have you been shaping?
Let's see. I started in 2001, so that's like 22 years now.
Oh, okay, wow. So that's a long time. So how long you've been? We're in Shapers Alley, by the way, Oceanside, just off the 76 freeway. Couple miles up from the harbor. And when did you come to Oceanside in terms of shaping anyways?
Probably right around the same time that I started shaping. I moved out to Oceanside with some friends, and we were watching a how-to shape video religiously. It was just on loop, you know.
YouTube?
And, yeah, well, I don't even think it was YouTube. It was like a DVD.
Oh, okay.
It was just like one of the things, along with all the other surf films that we just have on the TV going constantly, right?
Right.
And so I was geeking out on like trying to learn this stuff, but I didn't even think about shaping. I was just like, oh, I want to do that one of these times, you know?
Like build one board or something in the backyard.
That'd be sweet to do it, you know? Go back and forth with a friend, like, we should get some blanks, we should try that, you know? And that was pretty much the start of it. I got 2 blanks from a great spot called Real Surf, Sean Ambrose.
Yeah, Real Surf.
Yep, and he sold me my first 2 blanks, and the first 2 hacks ever were terrible.
Well, I love his memes. Those are like hacks in themselves, right?
Yeah.
The way he does the memes and stuff. So Sean Ambrose, everybody. And I think there's a fundraiser right now going on for Sean. He was in an accident, so if you get a chance, go peek at Real Surf Shop and follow along. On that note, too, there's another fundraiser coming up on May 12th at Shoots in South O for Rhinehart, Zach Rhinehart. So check that out. That's going to be really cool. You're going to have a raffle down there as well. So how did you get from the DVD, because now that you're mentioning it, I mean, this was a long time ago, so yeah, YouTube wasn't on hit back then. It was pre-Netflix or Netflix days. I don't even remember what was going on back then. So
I don't remember having any of that, just like waiting for the next surf movie to come out.
Yeah.
You know? So
how did you get like from that to you got those blanks? Like what pushed you over the ledge? Like you saved the money to get those blanks, or like what?
You know, it was it kind of became a project between me and my stepdad.
Okay.
And awesome dude. So I got these, and I got basically like a fish blank for me, and like a kind of a longboard blank for him. And the makeshift setup was hilarious. We had a dresser on one side and put those long lights on one side, stood up buckets on another side. It's like a balancing act. And then obviously the mom didn't want any dust anywhere, which is impossible, but somehow we convinced her to let me put those drop cloths all the way around like a Dexter crime scene. Yeah. And so just gathered some tools, actually knew someone that had a planer, old, it probably was a Skill 100, because it was just like, it was way back then. And just took my first pass, barely knew what I was doing, just pause the video, go out to the garage, do something, come back, like, what's next? And
so how did you get, when the resin part came along, what the heck did you do at that point?
Actually, I ended up buying a solar res gallon, and so I had like endless time to like wet the cloth out, and then I'd open the garage and put it out in the sun and bring it back in, and I didn't know that it kind of stays tacky, and I thought it would be like smooth and whatever. Right. And so I kept putting it back out in the sun, kept bringing it back in, until I was like,
It's like the hardest board ever, too.
it was. I spent way too much time. But finally, I was just like, screw it, and just like went to the next step and realized like, oh, it just stays like that until you actually do a hot coat. And
yeah, DVD. You couldn't really question the DVD a whole lot back
yeah,
then.
and they left so many details out. It was just so vague. So it took a long time. I didn't know anyone that shaped. Sean did, but I didn't really hit him up for some reason. I hit him up like to help me route fins.
Okay, yeah, that's hard too, right? That's a whole other step.
And I didn't have the tools either, so he had routed a couple fin boxes for me, and then I finished them.
And so those fins then were glass end fins, is what you're saying? Or
no, I used futures. They had futures.
Okay, you were cutting edge, man.
Yeah, cool. I was like, best fins, let's go.
So now you fast forward 20-something years, right? So what type of like contours and shapes or designs are kind of got your interest? Like what's inspiring you?
You know, what's funny is even from day one, I've had huge love for fishes, twins, and a lot of shortboards and other versions, but like the twin fin is definitely like stuck with me, and it's kind of evolved. You know, some more classic style, always trying to add a modern performance to it. So, you know, the first is probably the best, and I've just been refining that along with a bunch of other stuff. And there's most people, especially nowadays, love fish.
Yeah.
Twin fins are always in season. So
the definition of a fish is like kind of changed, I think, too. There's like these small fish that look like a shortboard. I don't surf one of those, but I see people on them, and I'm amazed that they, something about that shape kind of transitions to more performance side of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a variety. But when I think of fish, I think of like a classic wide nose, wide, deep swallowtail, wide point push forward a little bit, flatter rocker. But then from there, you have like performance versions where they have tighter outlines, like a shortboard,
right?
And they have a swallowtail. That's usually like step one. If it's a fish, it needs a swallowtail.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just a bunch of varieties.
Yeah, I've struggled myself on fish, trying to figure them out. I haven't put enough time, but there was a couple moments where my foot ended up over that swallowtail just enough, and like everything came together.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and at the same time, I was worried that like my little tender foot was gonna slide off those points and get hurt or something. So
I've had my share of sliding off the back of a board that's really small and you're not quite used to the length.
Right.
But yeah, it's always been, you get your foot over the fins, you're gonna have control. So as far back as you can push it.
And that's from the shaping side. Is that also, that's what you're writing? Is that what you're kind of also enjoying in terms of surfing yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I surf a variety. Excuse me. I have shortboards that I love for when it's good. Then I have the in between. I have a shortboard style fish that is kind of like the all year round type board. But yeah, I've been riding a classic twin right now with extra volume and thinned out rails. Keep it sensitive, but it's surprising what you can do with shorter boards that are stuffed with volume, a lot of foam, a lot of easy paddling. But I've been going all over the place. I've playing around with some asymmetrical fin boards.
You have to be confident, like in your it's not in the water, I noticed, but like from your car walking to the water line with your Asym in your hand, right? Like you get those kind of looks, like. I mean, so people probably ask you about it though when you break one out.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of curious, and I'm sure there's like people that are like, "Oh, this is stupid." Like,
yeah,
have you tried one? No, but they're stupid. That's why I haven't tried them. So they're surprisingly
fun,
amazing. The first Asym I did was based off of a shortboard that I know worked really well. So it was just like sorting out like where to put the fins, a little offset, you know, and what kind of tail is going to work with your backside and front side. And I knew it would go decent, but there's a noticeable difference. It looks weird. Your mind thinks it's gonna like react differently. You really don't feel it in a weird way, but you do have an advantage. And this you know, it's usually like a custom thing because no one wants to build like a stack of goofy footed versions and a stack of standard foot versions, and so. But people that do tend to ride them, they are really surprised. I know I was totally surprised.
Yeah, I'm going to do it at some point. It's probably coming sooner than later. So riders, people who are surfing your boards, have been surfing them for a while. Are there a couple people out there that come in that you enjoy collaborating with, or designs that certain surfers have helped you kind of evolve with?
I mean, I've worked with other shapers, you know, always a guy behind the guy for a decade plus, you know, so really it's just a lot of local customers, a lot of people that have, you know, stumbled upon me or been told about me. I've had a few team riders, but I've always just tried to focus on the customer. And I help a lot more people than just my board, so not so much like big names you're going to see, but it's really hard to go around Oceanside without spotting a Hack Surfboard, even closer to San Diego and LA, and you know, they get spread all over the world here and there through all the people that have come through here.
Yeah, that's cool. Before we take the tour, I'm going to hit my man up about the wave pool that supposedly is coming over here. Oh, I'm going to bring this thing in a little. Yeah, we got to make sure we got this guy giving it us all here. All right, so the wave pool, this 2.0 Waco something wave pool that's supposed to be coming. It's a big dirt lot. They've been pushing dirt around for a few years. How do you feel about this thing? Do you think this is going to be a cool thing? Do you think it's going to be in the way?
I think it's 100% better than more condos. And I don't know a surfer that would, as long as they get to surf it, that would be opposed to it. That's probably, you know, there's so many benefits. I don't know. I've always been positive about stuff, especially if it has to do with surfing. I just want to. I really hope that the owner of the wave pool works with the local shapers, doesn't bring in giant, you know, made overseas boards, and because that's where they're really gonna excel. Like if they keep it, they can do whatever they want, but involve the local community, the builders, you know, shops, all of it. I think they're gonna do huge, and yeah, I want to surf it.
Yeah, me too.
So I got no qualms with it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to surf it as well, and you know, a lot of things you just said there were. You know, they talk about it, at least at this stage, at some of these city meetings and so forth. And so they talk about partnering with all these different kind of businesses, including shapers. That part was a little vague on how they might do that. And it's a trip, because you've been here since about 2000. You were probably here before they referenced this as Shaper's Alley.
Maybe.
Was it called that back then?
It probably not. No, probably not. I mean, I actually used to work in San Clemente in I forget what they call it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Ghetto alley.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But you surf, I think, is a place right there. There's like that little area, which.
Yeah, I mean, you have like just great board builders over there too. Like I think between Oceanside and San Clemente, like we probably make the world's boards, not just ours and local stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exciting time.
Yeah, it's like there's always LA shops, San Diego shops, but I would say the majority of the boards are built right here in Oceanside.
So there you have it. If you're part of the team that's making the wave pool, we need somebody like Landen over here. cut.
Back when I was landing surfboards, people were like, "Oh man, you're a legend." I was like, "You probably think I'm Landen, don't you?"
Yeah.
I'm like, back then I was like, I'm in my 20s. Like, yeah, have you seen Landen? Like,
He was a beast, right?
Landen, not Landen.
Yeah.
But you know, you can put it on his account.
I'm sure he charges big waves too, man. You know.
I do my best.
Well, hey everybody, we're gonna take you on a little tour and hit a couple of these other rooms here to give you a much more full picture of what Landen is doing. Made for you in dust. What's going on in here, dude?
This is the main office, aka Dust Cave.
Yeah.
Where all the boards get shaped. This is off the CNC machine, little Grom shortboard.
Yeah, I noticed too when it comes off the CNC machine, you still have all these kind of lines in the foam, and then those get sanded out at a later point, right?
Yep. It's basically you're trying to maintain the shape and not ruin it, and there's some finer details where you'll foil out a rail a little bit more, you'll dish out a little bit extra concave if you want, templating the nose and tail a little bit different.
What, like a backyard shaper, like how would they blow it? You know, after it's been cut and they're ready. When you're talking about like, what would they do? Like dig too deep? Or?
Oh yeah, well, probably the first thing that a backyard or beginner shaper would do is they'll just shape the whole thing, and they usually have one side that's pinched and the other side that's square, and they hold it like this,
right,
and look at the outline. They're like, awesome,
right,
and they can't even feel it, you know, or they don't have the methods to check. Yeah,
right.
And so those are the things you learn along the way. If someone will help you.
Okay, so we stepped on into one of the other rooms here where the CNC machine is just basically ready to rock at any point when Landen is pushing the button. So Landen, for people that don't know, you pick up blanks from a supplier, right? Mm-hmm. And so, well, in one case here behind us, we got Arctic Foam. They make some cutting edge foam that's, I don't want to go into their interview, but it's a little more environmentally conscious or something. Do you know anything? I mean, what's your understanding of that?
They've dabbled into some blanks that are more eco-friendly.
Okay.
But their best foam is just the standard stuff that we've been using for ages.
Okay.
And they produce pretty much the best foam that I've used, and they have such a long list of pros that are writing the same foam, mm-hmm. and they have a great production. The guys over there are awesome dudes.
Super
They
nice.
take care of everybody, whether you're a big cat or
mm-hmm.
you're a starter, you're a beginner. And
yeah.
So
what makes the foam, like from your standpoint, from building a surfboard, what makes the foam or what qualities about it, seem to stick out to you with Arctic Foam?
I'd say the bright white stays white. Everyone wants their board to look new for a long time, and they have got it wired. And then beyond that, strength of the board, mm-hmm. not too stiff, not too noodly, so like a proper flex. Mm-hmm. The options of multiple different types of stringers, they cover all the bases. So light, bright, strong, that's like their mantra, and they're very consistent.
Awesome, yeah. Seem like a great group of guys. So the CNC, back to the CNC machine. You put your file in, you create a file. What kind of program do you use? Is it something like AutoCAD or what?
They have a program called Shape 3D that almost everyone uses.
Okay.
There's another company called Acu, and some people use that software as well, but I use Shape 3D for everything. And so it's a program that lets you create files and design surfboards, and it's kind of surfboard user friendly. It has like a starting point for most people.
Good.
And then you can modify your files. Some people can have a board scanned.
Right.
And then work on it. So
you're going to need a lot of Bondo for my board to scan. It's got so many dings or pressure points.
You wouldn't be the first. You know, the team riders of most of these people like will bring in their magic board, their favorite board, and it's destroyed. So yeah, you fill it, you sand it all over again, you try to scan it and
get close as you can.
Yeah, you try to get really, really close. You know, hand shaping. I love hand shaping. I still do it.
Right.
But there's definitely an angle for being able to change one tiny aspect and have the whole board remain the same and really be able to work out small kinks in a design.
Yeah, proportions, right? It kind of helps you in that aspect. So this machine right here, you're using this just for your boards, or can somebody else come in here and try to rent the machine or get your assistance? Or how does that work?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I'll cut boards for them. No one gets to use this machine,
okay,
except for like me or an employee.
Okay.
But yeah, there's dozens of people that I've milled boards for. They bring in their designs typically. They'll give me, you know, their Shape 3D file or whatever they use, and I'll set it up and run it. They'll bring in blanks, and yeah, they get a cut, and it's basically a cut fee.
Okay.
But the majority of the boards going on this are for my boards from Hack, and then you know, select a few that get lucky enough to come in here and get a board cut.
All right.
I'll always leave happy.
Well, be sure to, you know, give him a wave at the harbor if you see him down there surfing, and maybe he'll let you into the sweet spot here. Nothing run-of-the-mill about this mill, obviously, so that's pretty awesome. Thank you for the intel, and I'm always learning something about shaping, and you know, basically I can give my shaper a hard time, tell him I want all these things I just learned about.
Perfect.
Oh, well, on that, how about leaders, man? I don't even ask about leaders. I don't even know. I mean, what does anybody punk you for leaders?
There's some people that are pretty dialed. I kind of like that, but
okay.
I'm good with people having an idea, and that's really what leaders is to me. Okay. Like that's a great base. That's not the end all. That's just your flotation. So some boards you add leaders to, like a fish. You know, I ride extra volume on a fish.
Okay.
But when you're dialed down to the minimal, 1 liter up or down will make a huge difference on how you can paddle.
And then there's got to be like a conversion, right? Because if you're riding like EPS and epoxy, that's a different leaders, right?
They're more buoyant, so it depends what you're trying to do with it. Like if you want more float, then you would add. I mean, if you're trying to keep an epoxy the same float as a poly, you would probably have to drop down to liters because it's more buoyant.
Okay, well thanks, because that's what I've been trying to do, or was trying to do as I kind of migrated over. But
but when it comes to bigger boards, leaders don't matter.
Okay.
If you can't duck dive it, don't worry about the leaders.
Okay.
That's what I gotta say about that.
Okay, well, I'll keep working on my duck dive then. All right, so we're gonna move on to the glass room. Okay, so we made our way over to the glassing room, and we're gonna talk to Landen a little bit about this room and what takes place in here. Everybody talks about glassing. I'm getting my board glassed. Or if you're brave, you're gonna glass your own board. So the glassing though is actually a material.
Yeah, fiberglass. That's the part that goes on top of the foam that gives it the strength. That way it doesn't soak up water and it lasts a long time.
And then, so that's like on a roll, which I just took a shot there for you. So you pull that roll. Oh yeah, there it's in the shot there. So you pull the roll, it just lays there limp on the board, and then because when I think of glass, I think of resin. So then you get the resin out and you slap that on top of that material.
Yeah, you roll out a sheet of fiberglass across the whole board. and you trim it to fit the outline. And then you take your resin, catalyze it, and you spread it all over the fiberglass. It absorbs into it. You squeegee a lot of it off. Usually you're using a squeegee to spread it. And once it hardens, that's your glass. And after they call that the laminating part. After the laminating part, because there's still the fiberglass texture that will scratch you if you were trying to lay on it, they do a hot coat version, which is another layer of resin that has a surfacing agent wax that makes it all smooth out, and it covers the fiberglass. And then it goes to the sanding room after that. So that's all the wet work. That's the total process is the actual glassing. So each step is either a laminating or a hot coat version.
And then the fiberglass, I know people talk about how many ounces, 4 ounce, 6 ounce. I mean, this is just stuff I hear. I usually, again, I don't really pay attention to that. If I'm talking to a shaper, I'm kind of just let them know maybe how I surf, what happens to my surfboards, and then I let them decide. But some people, I'm sure, know exactly. I want an extra ounce or two here or there. What are the situations when you're needing to add maybe more than the standard amount of fiber?
So a heavier glass is a stronger board. It has more strength to it, but it does also add weight. So that's usually the toggle that people are trying to do. Like, you want a super light board, it's not going to last forever, but it's going to give you more performance. Or do you want a board that's a little heavier, it's going to last you a longer time, won't ding as easy. Some places they have really rocky reefs, and so they don't care so much about the weight because they lose their board or it hits a rock. Like, they want something that's going to be a little more durable. And there's always a blend. Like, sometimes you have a 4 ounce with one layer of 6 ounce on the top, and then like a 4 ounce bottom. So the deck gives you a little more strength where your heels are crushing into it. So there's just a bunch of combinations, and usually the customer's like, just make me a light board, you know. And then you have middlings and longboards and fishes where they have so much foam that it's not going to bother you if your glass jobs is a little heavier.
Right. And so when you're talking about 4 ounce or 6 ounce, it's not that you're just adding 6 layers of something. You actually have different thickness in the fiberglass that you're purchasing.
Yeah, different gauge.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
like one's thinner, one's thicker, and then there's different versions of cloth that are weaved differently to be stiffer and stronger. But like, there's endless.
Carbon. Then you go into the carbon.
Yeah, carbon. A lot of people like carbon. It looks cool. I think that's what most people get for. But
right here,
but
put some here and there.
It does have some functions, you know. Originally, like the tail patches that everyone sees, team riders would break their boards right above the fins because they're landing in air, doing a big floater. So they started just reinforcing it on the rail, giving it more strength. Stiffening up the tail a little bit because they have so much power, they'll load into it and they don't want it as fluxy. And then the other versions were like the strips down the middle. Those are usually compensating for not having a stringer. So instead of having a board that's crazy flexible, they want the lightness of not having no stringer. So they reinforce it with carbon to get that rigidness back. So those are usually the most common uses for it, other than looking cool. Yeah, so
I put some on my rails on the tail, and I don't stomp airs, really. I mean, especially I do flyaway airs, so my body's over here, my board's over there, there's no pressure, but it looks cool. And I think, performance-wise, one of my favorite boards does have it. I love the board. I don't know if it's just it has anything to do with the carbon, but I love the board.
It's most likely the shape.
Yeah.
Especially on like a fish or a middling or anything wide where you're not even your heels aren't getting anywhere near it. The only way that thing's breaking is if you run it into the pier or the ground.
Yeah, because my tail, I got a pretty big tail block. On a lot of my shapes.
It's that style. I kind of like what some people were doing where they weren't even using carbon. They're just like a graphic where that tail patch would function. And you know, there's nothing wrong with having your board look rad, like a little extra color. I love putting color on boards, you know. I love a clean white board. It depends.
Yeah, definitely about color. I think what you mentioned earlier is I get bummed when my board turns yellow. I feel like I need a new surfboard when that happens. And I've tried to paint it white before. I haven't used the Arctic foam, so I'll probably have to give that a test as well. So really awesome, everybody. This was the tour here. There was actually a few more spaces and things going on, but that was the beef of the interview there. So I'm so glad you guys joined us today for this introduction into Shaper's Alley and Landen Surfboards, Hack Surfboards. Give Landen a follow. Hack Surfboards on Instagram and website.
Yep. HackSurfboards.com.
There you go, basic. So thanks a lot, everybody. You guys have a good one, and we'll see you soon.